the Nazis went to great lengths to purge modernist art from German culture, rounding up hundreds of thousands of artworks, sending artists into exile, and burning thousands of their works. But why did the Nazis care? What was it about these artworks that made them feel so threatened? Was it simply the aesthetic tastes of a despotic leader? Or did they really believe that modernist art was dangerous? In the early 20th century, modern art thrived in Europe. Artists were breaking away from traditional forms and experimenting with new techniques, perspectives, and subject matters. From this period of experimentation, a string of art movements followed, including Cubism, Dada, Surrealism, and Vorticism. Many of these movements are represented in the Imperial War Museum's art collection.
In Germany, the era was dominated by German Expressionism, an avant-garde movement that included art, literature, music, and cinema. In art, it was characterised by simple shapes, vivid colours, and expressive mark-making techniques that captured the artist's feelings rather than depicting reality. In the IWM collections, we have a booklet of works by artist Max Pechstein that exemplifies some of the characteristics of German Expressionism. Pechstein was a German painter and printmaker who was an important member of the German Expressionist group Die Brücke between 1906 and 1912. Other members included Erich Heckel, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, and Emil Nolde, and they took inspiration from traditional German art as well as modern art movements such as the post-impressionist paintings of Munch, Van Gogh, and Fauvism. When the First World War broke out, Pechstein was in Palau in the Western Pacific, where he was interned by the occupying Japanese. Upon his return to Germany, Pechstein was drafted into the German army and served on the Western Front, which led to a nervous breakdown. His experiences are captured in this etching. The bold, stark lines exude a grim fatalism. A kneeling, blank-faced soldier tenderly holds his dying comrade. Pechstein's self-conscious, naive style aptly articulates the deeply traumatic subject matter. After the war, Pechstein's work gained recognition and popularity, and he became a professor at the Berlin Academy in 1922. But a few years later, he would become one of the artists targeted by the Nazis.
Germany's defeat in the First World War left the country politically unstable and economically devastated. Unemployment was high and people were starving, but despite these conditions, culture flourished.
The Weimar Republic became a hub for avant-garde movements in Europe, attracting artists, writers, and intellectuals. The 1920s became a decade of new social freedoms. Cabaret and jazz bands filled the cities, and the revolutionary Bauhaus School of Art and Architecture, founded by Walter Gropius, opened in 1919. Many modern art movements were considered elitist and foreign by a nation facing economic collapse. The progressive ideas explored within modern art movements created a visible target for the aggressive form of nationalism that was being purported by political parties. The Nazi Party emerged from this wave of extreme German nationalism in the 1920s. Degenerate art, or entartete Kunst, was a term adopted by the Nazi Party to describe modernist art. From early on, it was linked to the party's insidious beliefs about race. In 1928, the German architect and Nazi activist Paul Schwarzenau published a book called Art and Race. In the book, he applied the pseudoscience of physiognomy to modern art, drawing a link between artistic output and mental and physical disabilities. This resulted in the belief that racially pure and healthy artists produced art that captured the ideals of classical beauty, while those with mental or physical disabilities produced art that was chaotic and depicted the human form as monstrous.
The Nazis loathed the liberal culture of the Weimar period and used this as a propaganda tool during their rise and reign. Hitler idealised Greek and Roman art for its perceived purity, while condemning modernist art as a symbol of moral decay, which he attributed to Jewish people, socialists, and communists, groups he saw as threats to his vision of a culturally pure Germany. He wanted to eradicate this degeneracy. As soon as the National Socialist Party seized power in 1933, they started stripping German culture of anything they considered foreign. They disbanded local organisations of all kinds and introduced state-sponsored Nazi associations such as the Hitler Youth, sports and music groups. The Reich Chamber of Culture was created under the leadership of Joseph Goebbels in 1933. This oversaw all aspects of German culture, including theatre, books, news and art.
Eines überspitzten jüdischen Intellektualismus ist nun zu Ende.
The Nazis confiscated thousands of artworks from Germany's art galleries and museums. Museum curators and directors who had championed modernist art were dismissed from their posts, and more than 16,000 paintings, sculptures, prints and drawings by 1,400 artists were removed from museum collections. The Nazi plunder of art was retroactively made legal in May 1938, stating that art could be appropriated by the Reich without compensation. Artists who had previously been held in high esteem and taught at leading universities were forced to leave their positions, dramatically alter their style, or refrain from making art altogether. Many artists and art movements that had once been popular now face censorship and wider public criticism. Dada, Cubism, Surrealism, and Abstraction were among the styles identified as un-German. The Nazis used art periodicals and books about modern art as guides to help identify modernist works of art. With the Nazi Party attacking culture, many avant-garde artists went into exile. Some fled the country and some retreated to remote countryside locations. One of the leading exponents of German Expressionism, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, committed suicide in Switzerland in 1938.
The most valuable of the seized artworks were put up for auction in Switzerland, and the money raised helped to fund the Nazi regime. In March 1939, around 5,000 artworks considered to have little value on the international market were burned in front of the Berlin Fire Department. But getting rid of these artworks was not considered enough. The Nazis wanted to humiliate the artists and instruct the German people about their views. An idea was conceived for an art exhibition, one designed to ridicule these hated artworks.
In July 1937, the Degenerate Art Exhibition opened in Munich, organised by a group of leading Nazi officials. On display were 650 artworks, which had been confiscated from Germany's museums. The idea of the exhibition was to show the German people that modernist art was immoral and un-German. Max Pechstein was one of those artists vilified because of his style of work. His anti-war imagery captured the shocking reality of trench warfare and the physical and emotional impact it had on those who experienced it firsthand. This was viewed by the Nazis as a defamation of honour for the German soldiers who fought in the First World War. Pechstein was banned from making art and fired from his teaching post. To escape further persecution, Pechstein went into exile into the remote countryside near the Polish border. 326 of Pechstein's artworks were removed from German museums, and 16 of these were now on display in the Degenerate Art Exhibition. The artworks were displayed in a chaotic manner, tightly hung together and some without frames. They were accompanied by handwritten mocking texts that told the public how much money had been spent by state museums on acquiring art during a time of national economic hardship. Derogatory slogans such as "madness becomes method" and "nature as seen by sick minds" were painted on the walls. The exhibition was vaguely organised by loose themes such as shameful portrayals of religion, works by Jewish artists, or artworks that insult German women, soldiers or farmers. Its purpose was to anger the German public against modernism and the perverse Jewish spirit that was tarnishing the purity of German culture. In reality, though, only 6 of the 112 artists included in the exhibition were Jewish.
During its 4-month run in Munich, the exhibition attracted over 2 million visitors. It later toured across Germany and Austria, attracting a further 1 million visitors, and making it one of the most popular exhibitions of all time.
Whether or not German Expressionism showed signs of degeneracy was a contested subject that left many artists uncertain of their position. Joseph Goebbels, who was the Reich Minister for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, claimed to see a Nordic spirit akin to Nazi youth in the work of leading German expressionists. Hitler, however, held strong affiliations with realism and overruled Goebbels' argument.
Running in parallel to the Degenerate Art exhibition, also in Munich, was another art exhibition organised by senior Nazi officials. This one was called the Great German Art Exhibition. It opened the day before the Degenerate Art exhibition in the recently renamed House of German Art, a grand neoclassical building.
According to the catalogue, it would display only peak performances that give expression to the greatness of the new era, born from blood and soil, from National Socialist attitude. Hitler ceremoniously opened the exhibition with a speech saying, "We will wage a relentless war of purification." Many of the artworks on display had been personally selected by the Führer. Nazi-approved subjects on display were depictions of idyllic German landscapes and strong peasant families. This blood and soil pastoralism captured Nazi values of racial purity, militarism, and obedience.
It's interesting to note the sheer scale of the Nazi attack on culture, which was not militarily, economically, or politically threatening. It would have been incredibly time-consuming to identify, locate, move, store, display, sell, or destroy over 16,000 works of art. But for the Nazis, controlling German culture was part of their totalitarian rule. After the war, some German artists living in exile returned to Germany, including Max Pechstein, who returned to teaching and went on to win numerous awards for his art. During the Nazis' purge on art, over 16,000 artworks were recorded as having been seized in 1937. Most of the artworks were sold, burned, or otherwise disappeared during the war, and to this day, very few have been returned to the museums from which they were taken.